Khureb BeRuakh, Sword of the Spirit, narrated and interpreted by Wendy.
Ephesians. Chapter 1. Paul, an apostle of Jeshojehu HaMashiach, by the will of Elohim, to the saints who are at Ephesus, and to the faithful of Jeshojehu HaMashiach. Grace and peace be to you from Elohim our Father, and from Adonai Jeshojehu HaMashiach. Blessed be the Elohim and Father of our Adonai Jeshojehu HaMashiach, who has blessed us with all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in the Mashiach, according as he has chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, so that we will be holy and without blame before him in love, having predestined us to the adoption of the children of Jeshojehu HaMashiach to himself, according to the good pleasure of his will, to the praise of the glory of his grace, of which he has made us accepted in the Beloved, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins, according to the riches of his grace, in which he has abounded towards us in all wisdom and prudence, having made the mystery of his will known to us, according to his good pleasure, which he has purposed in himself, that in the dispensation of the fullness of time he might gather together in one all things in the Mashiach, both which are in the heavens and which are on earth in him, also in whom we have obtained an inheritance, being predestined according to the purpose of him who works all things after the counsel of his own will, so that we will be for the praise of his glory, who first trusted in the Mashiach, also in whom you trusted after you heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, also in whom after that you have believed, you were sealed with that Ruach Kodesh of promise, which is the earnestness of your inheritance, until the redemption of the purchased possession, to the praise of his glory. Therefore, after I heard of your faith in Adonai Yahushua and love to all the saints, I too did not stop giving thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers, so that the Elohim of your Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach, the Father of glory, may give the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him to you, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, so that you may know what is the hope of his calling, and the riches of the glory of his inheritance is in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power towards us who believe, according to the work of his mighty power, which he worked in the Mashiach, when he raised him from the dead, and set him at his own right hand in heavenly places, far above all principality, and power, and might, and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come, and has put all things under his feet, and gave him to be the head over all things for the assembly, which is his body, the fullness of him whom fills all in all. Chapter 2. And you who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which during times past you walked according to the age of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now works in the children of disobedience, also among whom we all had our conversation in times past, in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desire of the flesh and of the mind, and were the children of wrath by nature, just like others. But Elohim, who is rich in mercy, for his great love by which he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, has revived us together with the Mashiach. By grace you are saved, and has raised us up together, and made us sit together in heavenly places in Yahushua HaMashiach, so that in the ages to come he might show the great riches of his grace with kindness towards us through Yahushua HaMashiach. For by grace you are saved by faith, and not by yourselves. It is the gift of Elohim, not of works, or else any man might boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Yahushua HaMashiach, for the good works, which Elohim has ordained previously, so that we will walk in them. Therefore remember that in times past you were nations in the flesh. You were called the uncircumcised by those who were called the circumcised in the flesh made by hands, which at that time you were without the Mashiach, being foreigners from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope, and without Elohim in the world. But now in Yahushua HaMashiach, you who sometimes were far off are made near to the blood of the Mashiach, for he is our peace, who has made both one, and has broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished the hostility of the law of commandments contained in ordinances with his flesh, for to make in himself of two one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both to Elohim in one body by the cross, having slain the hostility by it, and came and preached peace to you who were far away, and to those who were near. For through him we both have access to the Father by one Spirit. Therefore, now you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints, and of the household of Elohim, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Yahushua HaMashiach himself being the chief cornerstone, in which the entire building is fit together, increases into a holy temple of Adonai, also in whom you are built together for a habitation of Elohim through the Spirit. Chapter 3. For this reason, I, Paul, am the prisoner of Yahushua HaMashiach, for you, the nations. If you have heard the dispensation of the grace of Elohim which is given me toward you, how that by revelation he has made known to me the mystery, as I wrote before in few words, by which when you read, you may understand my knowledge in the mystery of the Mashiach, which was not known to the sons of men during other ages, as it is now revealed to his holy apostles and the prophets by the Ruach, that the nations will be fellow heirs and of the same body, and partakers of his promise in the Mashiach by the gospel, of which I was made a minister according to the gift of the grace of Elohim, given to me by the effectual working of his power. This grace was given to me, who is less than the least of all the saints, so that I will preach among the nations the unsearchable riches of the Mashiach, and to make everyone see what is the fellowship of the mystery, which from the beginning of the world has been hidden within Elohim, who created all things by Yahushua HaMashiach, for the purpose that the manifold wisdom of Elohim may be known to the principalities and powers in heavenly places, by the assembly, according to the eternal purpose that he intended with Yahushua HaMashiach, our Adonai, in whom we have boldness and access with confidence by the faith of him. Therefore I desire that you do not faint at my tribulations for you, which is your glory. For this cause I bow my knees to the Father of our Adonai, Yahushua HaMashiach, of whom the whole family in the heavens and earth is named, that he would grant you according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with might by his Ruach in the inner man, so that the Mashiach may dwell in your hearts by faith, so that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the width and length and depth and height, and to know the love of the Mashiach, which possesses knowledge, so that you might be filled with the fullness of Elohim. Now to him who is able to do much more above all what we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, unto him is glory in the assembly by Yahushua HaMashiach, throughout all ages, a world without end. Amen. Chapter 4. Therefore I, the prisoner of Adonai, desire that you walk worthy of the vocation by which you are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long-suffering, enduring one another with love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Mashiach in the bond of peace, one body and one spirit, even as you are called in one hope of your calling, one Adonai, one faith, one baptism, one Elohim and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. But grace is given unto all of us according to the measure of the gift of the Mashiach. Therefore it is said, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men. Now that he ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He who descended is also the same who ascended up far above all heavens, so that he might fulfill all things. And he gave some to apostles, and some to prophets, and some to evangelists, and some to pastors and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edification of the body of the Mashiach, till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of Elohim, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of the Mashiach, so that from here on we are no longer children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of man, skilled craftiness, of which they lie in wait to deceive, but speaking the truth in love, may grow up toward him in all things, who is the head, the Mashiach, from whom the holy body fitly joined together and compacted by that which every joint supplies, according to the effectual working in the measure of every part, making increase of the body for the edification of itself in love. Therefore I say this, and testify in Adonai, that from here on you will not walk like other nations walk, in the vanity of their mind, having understanding darkened, being alienated from the life of Elohim by the ignorance that is in them, because of the blindness of their heart, those who cut off their hope and hand themselves over to lewdness and to the cultivation of every impurity in their lusts. But you have not learned the Mashiach like this, if truly you have heard him and you have learned of him, as whatever is true is in Yahushua, that you put off the old man concerning the former conversation, who is corrupt according to the deceitful lusts, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, who follows Elohim, being created in righteousness and true holiness. Therefore put away lying, everyone speaking truth with his neighbor, for we are neighbors one of another. Do not sin in your anger. Do not let the sun go down upon your wrath, nor give place to the devil. Let him who stole steal no more. Instead, let him labor, working the thing that is good with his hand, so that he might have to give to him who needs. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, so that it may minister grace to the hearers. And do not grieve the Ruach of Elohim, by which you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim has forgiven you for the sake of the Mashiach. Chapter 5. Therefore, be followers of Elohim like dear children, and walk in love, just as the Mashiach has also loved us, and has given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication, all impurity, and greed are not even to be named to all among you, as is appropriate for holy ones. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving thanks. For this you know, that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of the Mashiach and of Elohim. Let no man deceive you with vain words. Because of these things the wrath of Elohim comes upon the children of disobedience. Therefore do not be partakers in them. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in Adonai. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable to Adonai, and not fellowshipping with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reproving them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved will be revealed by the light, for he who reveals is light. Therefore he says, Awaken, O sleeper, and arise from the dead, and the Mashiach will give you light. Therefore, see that you walk carefully, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be unwise, but understand the will of Adonai, and do not be drunk with wine, in which is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to Adonai, always giving thanks for all things to Adonai and the Father in the name of our Adonai, Yahushua HaMashiach, submitting ourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. Wives, submit yourself to your own husbands and to Adonai. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as the Mashiach is the head of the assembly, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, as the assembly is subject to the Mashiach, so too the wives is to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, even as the Mashiach loved the assembly, and also gave himself for it, so that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, so that he might present it to himself a glorious assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it might be holy and without blemish. So too, men ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no man has ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, even as Adonai, the assembly. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother, and will be joined to his wife, and the two of them will become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning the Mashiach and the assembly. Nevertheless, let all of you love his wife even as himself, and the wife see that she reveres her husband. Chapter 6. Children, obey your parents in Adonai, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with you, and you may live long on the earth. And you, fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and teaching of Adonai. Servants, be obedient to those who are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in singleness of heart, like to the Mashiach, not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of the Mashiach, doing the will of Elohim from the heart, doing service with good will, as to Adonai, and not to men, knowing that whatever good thing any man does, he will receive the same of Adonai, whether he is bond or free. Also, you masters, do to your servants in this way. Forgive offenses unto them, because you know that your master is in heaven too, and there is no favoritism with him. Finally, my brethren, be strong in Adonai, and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, so that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, take the whole armor of Elohim for yourself, so that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Therefore, stand having your loins girded with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, by which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. Pray with all powers and with all desires, always in the Spirit, and watch with him in prayer every moment, as you pray constantly, and make supplication for the sake of the holy ones, and for me, that utterance may be given to me, that I may open my mouth boldly, to make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in bondage, so that in it I may speak boldly, as I ought to speak, but so that you may also know my affairs, how I am doing. Tuchikas, a beloved brother and faithful minister in Adonai, has made everything known to you, whom I have sent to you for the same purpose, that you might know our affairs, and that he might comfort your hearts. Peace be to the brethren, and love with faith, and Elohim, the Father of Adonai, Yahushua HaMashiach. Grace is with all those who love our Adonai, Yahushua HaMashiach, in sincerity. Amen. The end. Thank you for listening to my interpretation of Ephesians. I hope that you find my Bible series, Khureb BeRuakh, Sword of the Spirit, enlightening. The word of Yahweh is a treasure trove of mysteries. It's amazing what you'll discover when you read it with your eyes open. My name is Wendy, and you've been called out of darkness